it'll be like a completely different world, like going into the adult world.
I just think it's great that there's like a lot of enthusiasm and there's people are kind of just happy and naively into everything.
Something a bit more full on, something that'll set me up for life maybe.
The university sector is critically important to the future of Australia. It provides research, it provides education to the next generation of leadership, and it provides critical inquiry around issues of significance to the Australian community.
For most of my career as an academic, we've battled inadequate funding, really difficult conditions for research and for teaching, and now, as we see a new government come in, we're still facing those conditions. In fact, we've got less money now than we had in 1996.
By the end of the Howard years, Australia had marked itself out as the only country which had actually reduced the total amount of public funding of higher education in real terms in the OECD region. And funding per student had dropped by 28%, which was the second biggest drop in funding per student.
The university sector has been critically underfunded for over a decade. We are seeing the tensions in our universities now. Universities are cutting staff, staff-student ratios are increasing, and the workloads of our staff are getting higher and higher.
In a sense, the looming generational crisis, or the looming crisis in workforce renewal, is not really happening in 7 years or in 5 years. It's actually happening right now because we are losing a lot of very talented people through lack of resources, inadequate support and a poverty of opportunity at the end of a PhD.
Much more money was being spent on administration and recruitment and business-related services. As a result, there was less money available for teaching and learning and research, and in those universities that maintained their research performance, they did so at the expense of their teaching function. So you saw student-staff ratios blow out substantially from 14:1 to about 20:1 in the period between the early 90s and the early 2000s, and that stands for a very substantial deterioration in learning conditions.
The independence of the university sector is critically important to its ability to be able to properly engage in research without interference.
Academic freedom is really the basis of what we do as intellectuals in this country. Without that sort of freedom, then people really don't have the capacity to undertake research at the highest level. They don't take risks, they become mediocre, and they become very cautious in everything they say and do. I think the difficulty in the case of teaching is that there's a kind of a process of self-censorship takes place. A lot of academics are very nervous about their jobs.
An absolutely urgent priority has got to be regenerating the universities. Universities are at a moment of demographic change. I'm part of that. I'm going to go walking out of the university in 2 years' time. We need to be looking at who's going to be walking in. We need to be looking at the young sessional staff. At the moment, there's nothing to induce them to stay. We need a program for bringing them in, for developing them, for encouraging them to take on an academic career.
A national innovation strategy must be underpinned by a high-quality research output by our university sector. Without high-quality research, we will not be able to drive the productivity that is required to support industry.
Universities do a lot of research, and they've got a lot of people who are really good at research, but they're not really very well resourced for research. We need to have really active, energetic investment in long-term research in big, important issues, and climate change is one of them. Universities ought to be using their resources to produce some of the answers for climate change, some of the engineering, the environmental science, the social science, the behavioural change, the new initiatives that government can be taking.
The Bradley and Cutler reviews have identified significant funding shortages for the sector, both in the areas of teaching and research. There is an opportunity now for the government to be able to address that problem.
The Bradley reviews provide the government a list of items whereby it can re-strengthen funding. It can redress most of the problems of the Howard years, perhaps begin to move forward in terms of developing a more, I suppose, modern and pronounced capacity for innovation.
The review report clearly identifies participation as an issue. The focus was very much on the participation of commencing undergraduates. Certainly from a postgraduate perspective, there's a pipeline effect. You want as many people from as broad a background as possible to participate in higher education through undergraduate study.
Universities aren't just about private individuals, they're about social issues. So they need to be resourced. You need to put resources into research. You need to put resources into staff. You need to think about conditions in universities that are going to attract people who've got ideas.
The Our University Matters campaign is designed to highlight the significant role that universities play in our community and to pressure government into ensuring that quality education is available to all.
It's really important that the Universities Matter campaign doesn't just stop in universities, but it goes out to communities right across Australia.
An investment in education is an investment in the future.